So how do you go about playing a mythological kind of creature? Well, you know, something like the leprechaun character, that's kind of, you sort of make it up as you go along a little bit, really. You do a particularly dodgy Irish accent and then act like a complete nutter, and it sort of works. But it's always a pleasure actually to bring sort of characters and creatures to the screen, you know, especially, for example, in Harry Potter, some of these characters that people know and love from the literature. And then I feel a great responsibility to make sure that they appear on screen in the way that I feel the readers would have imagined them. You know, that's the trick when you adapt a book to the screen. So they're a little bit more tricky because I want to make sure I please everyone. But then there are other characters, you know, when you play characters in Star Wars and things where you're totally in control of them. I mean, they're written in the scripts and they're designed by wonderful artists, and then you get to wear these fabulous costumes and things. But then it becomes all about how you want to interpret what you've read and what you see in the shape of the character and how it looks to bring it to life, really. And then again, hope the audience like it. You know, as an actor, we kind of put ourselves out there and hope that what we're doing is what people are going to enjoy. And quite fortunate, most times I've got lucky in my career at the moment, but there's a lot of luck involved. Thank you.
Warwick, obviously you're one of the very few actors, perhaps the only actor, who's been fortunate enough to work with all of our new Star Wars directors. So you've been with JJ, Gareth, and now Mr. Johnson. I'm curious, can you talk about each of those experiences and how you found them, particularly most recently?
Yeah, I mean, all of the directors on the Star Wars films, you know, if you go back to Richard Marquand and George himself for Episode 1, and Gareth, they've all just brought their own sensibilities to it. Of course, you have to as the director, and that's why each of these individuals, not in the case of George obviously, but that's why they're employed to kind of come and do these films, is because they bring something to the table themselves, a particular filmmaking style, a writing skill, whatever it might be, and I think that gives each of these films just a unique slant and individuality, but at the same time they all still feel part of the same galaxy. Do you know what I mean? That we all know and love, yeah, I think it's great. I mean, Richard Marquand, I do owe him a lot because it's him and David Tomlin who was the first assistant director. Both of those guys kind of saw 11-year-old me as a background artist, you know, just filling in some bodies in the background, and brought me to the fore and featured me, which was really lovely. I mean, you know, that's again another stroke of luck. But I was able to do things, you know, and interpret this character quite naturally in a way that was quite endearing, and they enjoyed, and Rich, you know, kept just bringing me and putting me in shots and things like that. But Gareth, I was a big fan of Gareth Edwards. I loved his work on Monsters. I'm a particular fan of that film. And I'd actually been to a Q&A, an Empire Magazine Q&A that he'd done, and sat in the audience and asked questions. Little did I know at that point, one day he'd be directing a Star Wars movie. He didn't know that at that point, and I would also be in it. And yeah, it was really fun. With Gareth, though, you never quite know when the camera's rolling. He's one of these guys that just shoots stuff, and it's quite tricky when you're in a creature head. You're never quite sure of what is going to be in the movie and what isn't, and so it keeps you on your toes. So, great. Yes, you go.
Right. As Disney bought Lucasfilm,
Yes.
and now Lord of the Rings is done, there's a market for, I was hoping maybe a sequel for Willow.
You know what? There's so much energy behind this now. Everybody's asking about it. Even down on the floor today, tweets about it. Val Kilmer's always asking me about it. Just can't keep it up again. You know, and I've heard, I can't say any names, but I've heard interest from somebody that would be quite interesting to have involved. And yeah, who knows? Because, you know, it is under the Disney kind of umbrella now. They've even branded the original film Disney's Willow now. whenever it's on TV, it's called Disney's Willow. And it's quite sweet when I meet younger children now who've seen it. They say, "Oh, I love Disney's Willow." They actually call it that, which is really cool. So, yeah, I mean, joking aside, I mean, I think it's nice to kind of explore characters, especially the ones in Willow, now that they've aged a bit. You know, obviously I still look as good as I did back then, but, you know, is Willow the character older and wiser? Has he learned to be a sorcerer? Is he now the High Aldwin of the village? What's going on with that? Did Aurora Dannon grow up to be the princess and rule the land that everybody hoped she would? You know, what's happened to Mad Martigan? Has he gone off the rails totally? You know, he's kind of that way already. So, you know, it'd be interesting to see kind of where it could go. But I'd certainly love to kind of follow it up. And there's a lot of 80s movies being sort of, you know, having sequels made and things. And, you know, a lot of people look fondly to the 80s for being a great decade of, especially science fiction and fantasy films. Thank you. Yes?
Warwick, I was just wondering if you still remembered the rap from Leprechaun in the
No. It was something about, I come from the land of the Irish Spring. I forget the rest of it. I got asked to do it once at one of the Star Wars celebrations and made a complete hash of it, so I've avoided it. But, yeah, no, rapping's not in my nature. Some people it's kind of in their soul, but for me, you know, a boy from the southeast of England, it doesn't come easy. Yes, did you have a question? Yeah.
On the topic of Leprechaun, you've been to the Hood, you've been to space, you've been back to the Hood, are you going anywhere next?
There's nowhere else to go, is there? I mean, it was ridiculous, wasn't it? They ran out of places. They would send it to space. And then back, yeah, the Hood, we went to the Hood twice. And so obviously you ran out of places to go, but I don't know. I mean, I'd like to do a road movie. I think the Leprechaun on a road movie would be really kind of fun, wouldn't it? Just experiencing lots of people and stuff. Because I especially enjoy his interaction with just regular people. It's funny, isn't it? You know, when he encounters people, he always puts himself intellectually above them, but yeah, just enjoys sort of toying with them, and I think that'd be kind of fun to see some more of that. But yeah, who knows? Who knows about that? Yes.
Speaking about the characters that you've played,
Yeah.
and being back in the Star Wars universe, and you're playing like various characters on there. But is there ever been a question of you revisiting Wicket?
That's never come up as a topic of conversation.
Would you like to?
It'd be fun. You know, years ago they were, I think it was around about the time of episode 2 in Australia, they were talking about doing a huge sort of photo with many of the characters kind of all in one photo. And they were talking about getting Wicket in the photo and me. And I said, well, first of all, I'm quite a long way away from where you are right now in Australia. And I don't think I would actually fit in the costume anymore. Because I was 2'11", you know, when I played Wicket. And I'm 3'6" now, so there's a big difference, you know. Yeah, it would have been. I mean, it would have been lovely to kind of been able to be involved with that, but I'm not sure. You know, after you've sweated in the suit for 8 weeks, you don't really want to get back in it, especially after sort of 30 odd years. You know, I don't know what it would be like. But it is in the archive. I've seen it as well. You know, it was really, and I was surprised at how small it was when I saw it again. I was like, wow, look, it's tiny. You know, it's really quite sweet. Yes.
What advice would you give to any aspiring actors and comedians?
Don't do it. No, definitely do. I mean, follow your dreams. Follow whatever people say. There'll be loads of people going, "Oh, get a proper job," and all this stuff. You know, and I would suggest though have a plan B. That's probably the compromise. You can tell those people. You can say, "Well, look, I am studying to do this, and I will be able to set up this business as a sideline, so that when there's no acting, I can focus my efforts on this, and this will be my income." Always do that, because, you know, I have lots of other things that I do apart from acting, but fortunately I'm really quite busy in the acting field. But it's not to say that that is going to last forever. And in the past there have been times where I haven't worked for, you know, 6 months or so in acting, so it's been quite useful to have the backup plan. So make sure you do that, and just go for it. You've got to be tenacious. You've got to knock on doors. You've got to really push. Don't rely on an agent to do it for you. Just get stuck in and just kind of make the best of it. Grab every opportunity. Cool.
Two more questions.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. Here.
What can we look forward to about the next episode of Star Wars, and particularly your cameo in it as well?
I can't really talk about anything to do with that. But you know what? I'm just so thrilled that they asked me to be in these films once again, because for me as a Star Wars fan, it's hugely exciting just to walk onto the sets and to discover things. And yeah, I feel really privileged every time I walk in there to just see the things that they're creating, and some of them familiar, some of them unfamiliar, and yeah, it's an absolute delight, you know.
Was it something that took you particularly by surprise about having worked on this one as opposed to all the other ones that you've been?
I mean, I think what I'm enjoying about the films that we're making now are the sense of so much of it is created now, you know, and as Kathy Kennedy said when she was just embarking on starting work on episode 7, we're going to use all the tools in the toolbox, meaning not only are we going to use CGI, we're going to use models, we're going to use animatronics, puppeteers, we're going to build droids, we're going to do all of these things, and then they use a combination of techniques or solutions to form a particular sequence. It's a bit like a magician, you know, you use a lot of different ways of doing a trick so that the whole thing is going to be complete and convincing. And so I think it's really lovely to see all of these somewhat older skills being utilised again, whereas on episode 1, that was a completely different film. Like, I'd never made a film like it before, where nothing existed, you know. I did a shot for that film where there was nothing except me and a blue screen, and I was having to imagine not only this creature that I was dealing with, but also the environment I was in. None of it existed. Whereas, you know, with films like Rogue One, that was a very immersive experience. All of it was there, you know, in a three-dimensional kind of 360-degree space. You looked all around you, there was stuff happening everywhere, because you never knew what was going to be shot. Because Gareth would shoot over there, and then you'd whip the camera around here. So the crew are like diving behind, you know, things. And, you know, if you look carefully, you will see crew in the film at times. Because there'll be puppeteers with remote controls with hoods on and things, because you never knew quite where the camera was going. Okay, I've got time for a couple more questions. This is going to be a great question, this one.
So you briefly mentioned that 360 and immersive space.
Yes.
As we're now kind of moving, you know, could be in the film to digital, we're now in the virtual reality or soon coming era of it. Have you tried out virtual reality, and if so, how did you feel? Did you have any aspirations to work within that new immersive medium?
Okay, well, it's interesting. I was actually on the set of Rogue One, and it was the tank sequence on Jeddah, and these guys had this weird contraption they kept putting out in the middle of the set. I said, what is that? And they said, put these goggles on. I put them on, and it was weird, because I was stood in the same space they'd just done it in, but I could able to turn around and look completely around the space that we were in. And they were going to use that for you to be able to go on the web and look at, you know, the behind the scenes kind of thing, making of the film. My son's got a VR, PlayStation VR, and that's quite cool. I'll tell you what a good thing to do with that is, if you've got that, and we do a car driving game, I forget what the game is anyway, and then you're driving and you stick your head out the window, and as you do that, get someone to fan you with a bit of paper. And it's like really cool, it's like, it feels so realistic. So you can kind of enhance the VR effect by just adding a few effects, you know, like that. Spraying somebody with water and things like that, you know, like for zombie blood. It's quite effective. But yeah, I mean, I don't know whether we're going to totally see films made like that. You know, that won't be the only medium, but I think it's a really fabulous sort of experience. What did I play the other day? Is it called Farpoint?
Yeah.
Is that the one?
Just came out.
Yeah. That freaks me out. That's quite. Harrison threw the headset across the room at one point. He just slung it because one of them spider things tried to get him. Yes.
I was wondering, like, for a character like going all the way back to like Wicked, what was
Yeah.
the development process for that character?
Well, you know, it was me putting a furry suit on, and then acting like a curious 11-year-old does on a film set. That is exactly what happened. I put it all on, and I started thinking, I did actually think this, what would this kind of primitive character do now? And straight away I clocked R2-D2.
Yeah.
Because I thought, well, this is new. He's seen bits of the Empire kind of around on the planet, but this to him is like totally fun and different. So I went straight over to R2-D2 and started kind of peering at him. Then they went, oh, quick, get some shots of this, and that's kind of how I really played him. It was kind of basically me as an 11-year-old crossed with my pet dog, who used to tilt his head like that whenever he heard a strange noise, and I thought, well, I'll do a bit of that. And I was able to get my own tongue through. So there is a bit of actually me in the Star Wars, this actual tongue. Is Wicked's tongue. So, it's a combination of a few things, but it's just kind of just played it. I've just played it real, and it happened to work quite well. So there you go. So just going back to the VR thing, and you know, back then in when I was 11, you know, I was battling stormtroopers, getting to throw rocks and spears at them. But now in the games that you do, you know, the virtual reality and also in Battlefront, you kind of do that. And I was doing that for real as a kid, but now kids of today are kind of doing it in a virtual way, which is really quite interesting. Well, thank you guys. I'm sorry it has to be brief this afternoon. Pleasure to see you all, and thanks for coming to MCM Comic Con. Cheers.